Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is, and welcome back. I hope your week is unfolding beautifully and you're enjoying your tri-tip, tomahawk, T-bone, tater tot Tuesday. And we're very glad that you're here and back and with us. We've got a great stream planned ahead. We got a little bit of a precarious start to the stream because we just got news that Kristi Noem was transferred over to the hospital. This was a story that just came out over from CNN, CBS, and others are reporting that it's not that big of a deal. Apparently, it's just an allergic reaction, provided that it's not a serious allergy, to like polonium or something. But Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was transported to the hospital. Just a little bit of a blurb here. A lot of it is on the cables, saying Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was transported by ambulance on Tuesday to a hospital in D.C., which makes everybody a little bit nervous. She has been conscious at the hospital and has spoken with her security detail, one of the sources said. So keep our eye on that. Libs of TikTok and others have reported that it just seems to be allergies and allergic reaction, transported to the hospital out of an abundance of caution. But that's all it is. So that's good, again, provided it's nothing too serious. But I think a lot of people were nervous about this because simultaneous with this, we saw that there were a bunch of reports that Iran state TV and the official Iranian military profile posted this today. Said tonight, meaning tonight, there will be a great surprise, one that the world will remember for centuries. You go, that's a long time. We don't remember anything. So it's got to be a pretty big thing, or it's just going to be nothing. So we saw that. We see Kristi Noem going to the hospital. We're all going, all right, what the heck's going on here? Which is why we're camoed up today. So if you're having a hard time seeing me today, nothing wrong with the stream. Tubes are good, no clogs, just wearing camouflage in case the Iranians come after us or something. But we've got a great stream planned ahead. Quick preview on what is coming up. Then we'll zoom in for further detail. But we got this dude, Brad, over in New York, the comptroller. This guy's running for mayor. He got arrested. The libs flipped out about it. He's now been released. He's not going to be charged, of course, because Democrats are above the law. But we'll go through it because there was a kerfuffle today that looked like this. And these guys are getting very, very, very careless and reckless with this type of behavior, right? These are Congress people or comptrollers, soon to be mayors, who are going in here and getting into it with ICE. And they're all escaping this for the time being. So we'll come back to that. We'll see what Bill Melugin had to say about this. He's seen a lot of this. And of course, listen to Kathy Hochul. Kathy Hochul, mom for this guy, came and took him out of jail today. Pretty hilarious. So we'll go through it. We'll see what the latest is and parse through a lot of these insurrectionists who are now protesting and getting taken down by federal law enforcement, deservedly so. Alex Padilla was over in the Senate today, basically crying. And so we'll listen to see what he had to say about it because it was pathetic, as you'd expect. And then we'll listen to Brad, of course. Brad, he sounds just like he looks. Wait till you hear this guy. So we'll come back on that. Then we got to check in on what's happening with Newsom because Governor Newsom had a rough day in the Court of Appeals today in the Ninth Circuit. Got a couple of highlights I want to run through with this, but Kyle Cheney over from Politico, who is no fan of Trump, says, yeah, Gavin didn't do so hot today. And we'll go through what went down. All three judges had pretty tough questions for them. And I'm pretty sure Gavin Newsom sent like his 16-year-old son to go over there and make arguments. So the guy's like super young. I mean, good for him. Shout out to this young man. Just got his driver's license and now he's arguing in the Court of Appeals. Pretty cool. I mean, I've never done that. So pretty, must be sharp dude. But that's what Gavin sent over there. So, anyways, we have, we're going to go through all of that. Then we'll turn our attention to Judge Zenas, rhymes with. We remember her. She's the judge in the Kilmar case. She's been very, very ornery and difficult when it comes to jurisdiction and letting go of the injunction that she issued to protect Kilmar and the rest of the gangbangers who are foreign invaders. So she now got hit with a motion to dismiss from President Trump. And they say, listen, you have no jurisdiction. And so you lack subject matter jurisdiction over this case. And accordingly, under the rules, you must dismiss this entire lawsuit. So do it. We'll see if the judge does or not. We'll read through it, but this is the latest on the Kilmar case. Homeland Security now reversing themselves. So they're going to go back and round up the illegals at the farms and the hotels and everywhere else. Walking back that Trump statement from a week or so ago that left everybody going, the heck was that? The hell came out of his mouth? We got Griff Jenkins said Border Patrol just released another update on the numbers. The numbers are basically zero. Okay, not a single person was released. And this took like 5 months to fix the border. Incredible. Clips from the sheriff, clips from Trisha, and we got more coming up because we got to talk about this guy. There was this former Coast Guard officer who was a sharpshooter who got arrested and charged with threats to assassinate our favorite president, Trump. And you can see this is the affidavit that came out. This guy was a task force sworn officer with the FBI, and he's going to explain to us what happened here. This guy was all over Blue Sky, and he was a sharpshooter. He was a U.S. Coast Guard officer who was a sharpshooter and a FEMA instructor. All right, so you know he actually had some good skill sets there. Probably could stand on sloped roofs. So we'll go through that. I got some of the documents pulled up. We'll hit the highlights on them. We'll see what he was saying and get some of your reaction to all of this in due course. And we can't wait for that, obviously. So we got a great stream planned ahead. Very glad that you're here and with us. Thanks for tuning in. Of course, before we get into any business on the day, as we await to see whether the president's going to address America or any of those things, we know that many people are feeling it out there. We've got costs going all over the place. Markets are shifting on everything. We might even be in the middle of a global conflict that causes mortgages, gas, groceries, home repairs, and all those things to go out of whack. And so if you're a homeowner, you've probably thought, should I call American Financing to refinance and pay off this credit card debt? And then you second guess yourself because of that low mortgage rate that you currently have. But here's the deal, right? That low rate may not actually be saving you anything if you've got high credit card interest at like 25% or more. And it's just math. Nobody wants to face it, but it could be costing a lot. And so the fact is, if you're only making minimum payments, that debt could follow you for years. And that's why people are calling American Financing, because they're saving customers an average of $800 a month by using their equity to break free from that credit card debt. So why not just call them, see what's possible? No upfront fees, no pressure, cost you nothing to find out what you could save every month. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. So call American Financing today. 866-887-1201. That's 866-887-1201, AmericanFinancing.net/Robert. And the links are in the description below. And we appreciate them sponsoring today's episode. Now, my friends, let's get in to business. And let's see what's going on. How's the stream coming in? We've got some buffering comments, but no buffering on YouTube. How are we doing on YouTube? How's the stream cooking over there? Hopefully coming in loud and clear. Looks like excellent connection there. All right, keep our eye on it. So thanks for the feedback. All right, so let's get into business on the day because we got a bunch of stuff to attend to. And as I mentioned, if Trump comes out or if anything changes or a nuke goes off somewhere, thanks for letting me know and we'll cover that, of course. But let's get to what's happening out there today. And here is where we'll start. Another Democrat politician arrested after trying to make a show for himself to enhance his public profile, fighting on behalf of illegal aliens who are being arrested because of federal law enforcement actually enforcing the law. This guy is called Brad Lander, and we'll listen to this dude in a second, I know. But he got arrested today and released Kathy Hochul. His mom of New York came, got him out of jail, dragged him on out, and then they screamed at the media about racism. So what we'll see here is the story from the New York Times. Obviously, they're there. They say that this guy is a Democrat. He was observing proceedings. Videos were taken by reporters. We'll watch several of them. He appears to hold on to the man as agents are shepherding the man, the illegal, out the door, right? They report on it saying he repeatedly asked the agents whether they've got a warrant to arrest this migrant, aka illegal. He repeatedly says, "Do you have a judicial warrant?" He walks behind them, according to one of the videos, appears to hold on to the illegal. As the agents are shepherding him towards the elevators, he says to the agents, "I will let go when you show me the judicial warrant," anchoring himself onto this dude. Agents can be seen trying to pry Lander away. This guy, he's a comptroller and he's a mayoral candidate. He's not some sort of judge or administrative enforcement. They're not in a courtroom. He's got no power, no jurisdiction, just some random dude. Agents can be seen trying to pry Mr. Lander away. They ultimately separate Mr. Lander from the man, pushing him against the wall, place handcuffs on him. He says, "You don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens," he says repeatedly. "I'm not obstructing. I'm standing right here in the hallway," as he's hanging on to the dude. "I asked to see the judicial warrant." New York Times says, agents don't need judicial warrants to make arrests in immigration courts because they're public spaces, immigration lawyers said. New York Times even saying, "Hey, dummy, you don't have the power to do this and you don't have the right to look at them." Even the New York Times. Dora Pekek, a spokeswoman for Mr. Lander, said that he was taken by masked agents and he was detained by ICE. This is still developing. And this dude had a bunch of women come to his defense. Even his wife was posting about this on X. And Hochul came out. She said, "This is BS." We'll watch the video here in a second. But he got taken down. Here is what Bill Malugin says. You know, based off this video, this is a pretty blatant interference with ICE by Landers. You can see him locking arms with the ISIS target, just as we saw. He refuses to let go, saying he wants to see a warrant. Bill, who reports on this stuff constantly, says ICE does not need a judicial warrant to make an arrest, nor would they have to show it to Landers because he's some random dude who asked for it. Physically interfering like this is exactly what Tom Homan repeatedly warned about would lead to potential federal prosecution. We'll see what happens here. No charges, of course, because he's above the law, because this is how Democrats operate. Now, here's the video. Locked arms right there. Locked arms right there. Obstruction. Arrest him.
Guys, back up, guys, back up.
Get off.
I understand you're pregnant, but I need you to back up. If you're interfering with this arrest, we have to arrest.
Warning, warning. You're interfering, warning.
Back up, guys.
This is not legal to take someone without a judicial warrant.
Please don't put him in the elevator and then claim you have the...
They're all listening to way too much Jen Psaki over on MSNBC. They're just listening constantly. Judicial warrant. Just say judicial warrant. They can just say it, repeat it like those little birdies in cages, and it is not accurate.
You don't have a warrant for him.
I will let go when you show me the judicial warrant. Where is it?
So show it. Let us see it. So let us see it before you take us to warrant.
Dragging him down. All these dudes finally have enough.
Step back. Please, step back.
All right, enough of
Step
you.
back, guys. Step back. Step back.
U.S. citizens. You don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens. Please stay back. You don't have. I'm not obstructing. I'm standing right here in the hallway.
Now you are, after you had to get ripped off the dude.
Step back, guys. You can take pictures, but please stay back.
To arrest U.S. citizens asking for a judicial warrant. Stay back, please. Stay back.
Press, we go too. Sorry. No way. I'm safe. Where are you taking him?
Jail.
Hello?
Jail. He's being detained.
Where are you taking the controller?
And with what authority?
Jail.
Why are you arresting
For obstruction of
and
federal
where are you
agents.
taking him? No!
Number one's gonna go, all right? Hang on, where's number one? Hold on. Brett, that's his number one right here, all right?
All right, have a nice elevator ride there, buddy. So he got wrapped up in the arrest, physically, literally, locked arms with the other guy, and then says with a straight face that he wasn't obstructing anything. He thought he was doing some sort of, peaceful civil protest or something like that, obstructing federal agents. See if you could do that when FBI agents are kicking the doors in of J6ers, something like that. Other people who were allegedly in violation of the law, like these illegals are. So, who are actually U.S. citizens. Imagine if a wife of a husband was locking arms with a J6er who was being stripped away from his family after scumbag FBI agents kicked their door in the dark of night. Imagine what they would do. They might shoot that person and not afford them any of this, right? And so federal agents just kindly said, can you get off of them, please? This is an illegal alien who's now going away. And we've got another Democrat who's just trying to turn this into a show. And this is becoming a little bit of an epidemic over there with them. We've also got Padilla, who is crying about this over on the Senate floor. We'll check him out in a minute. But Kathy Hochul had to go and save this dude. Pretty hilarious. And we saw a great post from, I think it was Stephen Miller, not that Stephen Miller, but he actually said that, yeah, Hochul went and pulled him out like his mama, picking him up from the principal's office. Very funny post. And said, here's another one from Dapper Detective. Here, Hochul admits she had all charges dropped against Brad Lander. Okay, so she goes in there. Mom comes to the principal's office, pulls him out of jail, and then says no charges.
And that's when I got word of what had happened to my colleague in government, our controller, Brad Lander. The video is shocking. I knew I needed to come down here immediately and check on his whereabouts and do what I could to intervene.
Did what I could to intervene.
I'll let Brad speak about his experience. But to my knowledge, the charges, there are no charges. Charges have been dropped. He walks out of there a free man. But here
he walks out of here a free man. Because I went and got him. Here is that post I was mentioning from Red Steez on X. Stephen L. Miller says, it's like his mom had to come and get him. And look at his wife. Yeah, baby, rubbing his arm like he's a hero. Like he just is, you know, the new civil rights activist media. You did it. Yeah. She comes walking out like she's a hero. And then the wife's rubbing his arm. Great job, honey. Great job. You stood up for illegal aliens in our country. And then they run out and they do the little stupid press conference. So mom had to come down to the principal's office, and the rest of the illegal alien infrastructure that has been built in America rallies around to his support. So we now know that the Homeland Department came out and they told us this, according to Allie Bradley, got the scoop on it, says that Comptroller Brad Lander was arrested for assaulting law enforcement and impeding a federal officer, saying our heroic ICE law enforcement officers face a 413% increase in assaults against them. It is wrong that politicians seeking higher office undermine law enforcement and safety to get a viral moment like these maniacs. No one is above the law, and if you will lay a hand on a law enforcement officer, you will face consequences, except kind of not really. Now, he didn't hit them or spit on them or anything, but you have to, get physical with that. And I've represented clients who've done less than that. A cop has to get in there and break somebody up, break a fight up or something like that. They don't hit the cop. But if a cop gets a little bit of a bump or a bruise or something, felony assault on an officer. You go, what? For what? Yeah, well, was there an injury? No, not injury, but it's still assault on him. You can't do that because he bumped him or something like that. So when you cause a ruckus like that, when you cause disorderly conduct, that in and of itself is a crime. And when you have physical contact with other people, if that's a cop, man, defense attorneys know this too. It's just like open a window, a strong breeze comes through the air. Cops like, oh no, felony charges for assault on an officer. Depending on the jurisdiction. Not all jurisdictions are like that, but many are. So we got that coming in. He, of course, escapes anything. So there will not actually really be any consequences. In fact, he's going to be hoisted up on Kathy Hochul's shoulders, or Tish's shoulders, more sturdy, and she'll be able to, lavish this dude with praise all throughout New York. And here is another angle of this after the arrest.
Keep going. Back up. Sorry, back up. I'm gonna make this difficult. Sorry. Back up. Just back up. Let's not cause any problems.
Where is it?
Where is the warrant?
I would like to see the warrant. I would like to see the warrant, and then I will let go. I would like to see the warrant, and then I will let go.
That's getting pretty physical there, right? He's pushing, he's fighting, and you see his face. He's getting a little bit of a zone 2 cardio going in there. Look at that right there. That might be zone 3 cardio for this guy. Wow, he hasn't experienced that in a long time. So that's why his wife was probably rubbing his shoulders like, oh my gosh, probably almost gave him a heart attack right there with that facial feature from this dude. Fighting for illegal aliens, trying to obstruct federal agents. You got the gist of it. So that is their MO now, right? This is just what they do. They go after law enforcement officials who are doing their job. And then when they cause a scene, obstructing people like Kristi Noem, you see they go to the Senate floor and they start crying about it. Here is what Padilla had to say about this after his incident where he ran and rushed the stage while Kristi Noem was trying to give a press briefing. She's in the middle of her speech and a weird Senate lunatic comes barging in. No one knows who he is. He's like, don't you know who I am? I'm a senator. No one cares. This is not your building. This is not your press briefing. It's not time for questions. You don't get to barge in here and do whatever the hell you want. And then he goes into the Senate and screeches about it. Here's what he sounded like.
You've seen the video.
We did. It was pathetic.
I was pushed and pulled, struggled to maintain my balance.
Wow. Come on, work it up.
I was forced
work it up
to the ground.
Come on, dig for it.
First on my knees, and then flat on my chest.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So you can see it's like just a sob story. It's honestly pathetic. It's like not even manly at all in any way, shape, or form. You got tackled because you rushed a stage, you psychopathic person. There's nothing complicated about it. Stop acting like you're a victim of police brutality. There is actual police brutality where police actually do bad things. This was not it. You were in the bad, in the wrong. You escaped without any consequences at all. Now you're trying to curry favor with your illegal alien invaders. Save your sob story for Mexico. Now, Brad Lander came out, spoke about this. I just wanted to share with you his voice just so you could hear a little bit of it. He came out after custody. Here's what he sounds like.
As we can provide, as New York City, as New York State can provide to help them avoid being separated or being detained. But then when we went back upstairs, again, we had these next two cases, this Yoruba gentleman and then Edgardo, who we just tried to walk out of the building. And I think you saw
illegal. So you can see that it matches that facial feature that we saw previously. So Kyle Cheney reports over for Politico. We appreciate his reporting, although I don't think he agrees probably with our political positions at all. He has said the following after listening to Gavin Newsom, right? So speaking of people who are protecting illegals and sanctuary city governors and sanctuary city comptrollers, like in New York, where Hochul and Tisch are running roughshod over American citizens, denying them any equal protection under the law because illegals have due process premium where they don't even need driver's licenses to drive around and traffic humans and children. But then Newsom is doing the same thing on the other end of the country in the West Coast land. And he had oral arguments today in front of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, a pretty big one. Got some highlights that we'll hit together. But Kyle Cheney reports saying Gavin Newsom's arguments did not appear to fare well at the appeals court this afternoon. This is the National Guard case. Says all three judges had pointed questions about the state's arguments against Trump's deployment, and it appears unlikely the panel will let Breyer's earlier order take effect. Details will be forthcoming. Now, we have a couple clips here. I have to forewarn you that it's very slow testimony, so we won't spend a ton of time on it, but I want to show you just the outline so you can get an idea for what happened. It's about an hour and 5 minutes, but the judges just talk like molasses, as you'll see. But we had, basically you can break this up in a table of contents, all right? So look at how this started. So you've got Trump's opening argument. Trump's attorney is going to come out. Trump's attorney seems like a pretty seasoned dude, as we'll see right here. This guy right here. Look, pretty polished up, seated there. Looks great. Might be zooming in there. Called Brett from the Oval Office or from the White House or someplace over there at the DOJ office. But he's zooming in on that in the Ninth Circuit. Then we get like two questions against Trump, right? Judge says, courts have no say when the president deploys troops? Well, Your Honor, not really. It goes through that. Hypothetical about the president deploying militias from every state. So the president can just like unload a militia in every state and take over the country. Responds to that. Right, so kind of like two questions, not a lot. The rest of it, even just from this table of contents, shows that they were going after Newsom, right? Because then Newsom comes out, he's got an opening argument, and then boom, question. Trump comes out with a rebuttal, and just from that alone, you can tell kind of a rough day for him because they got hit with more questions. So what's your justification for blocking President Trump's order? And remember, Gavin Newsom said that Trump had to go through the governor's office in order to get permission to deploy the National Guard when you've got insurrectionary governors who are trying to undermine the entire country, saying, we've got to check with them before we can do anything. Obviously, everybody said that was ridiculous. You have Tom Cotton coming out and saying our racist Democrat governor would have then just vetoed the desegregation order and all those things. So it obviously made no sense. But that's what Newsom was saying. You have to come through and get approval from us. And so a couple of clips here. Let me just show you a little bit from the DOJ. Here is being asked about the question whether they have any judicial review at all. If Trump wants to deploy the National Guard, can the judges review it at all? Can they step in? Here's what this sounded like today in the Ninth Circuit.
Well, within his discretion. Again, just as to Section 3, is it the United States' position that the court has no role at all in reviewing what the president has done in calling forth the militia under subsection 3? Or is it the United States' view that the court has a limited role and needs to afford the president very substantial deference? Or is it something else in deciding whether the requirements of subsection 3, inability with the regular forces to execute the laws, is met?
Thank you, Your Honor. Our view is that this statute commits the decision whether to call up the forces to the president's unreviewable discretion. So no, there's no role for the court to play in reviewing that decision. And I think it's important to note that the statute here is very similar to the statute at issue in the Martin case that we've cited, the Act of 1795, which had a similar structure. It had the whenever clause followed by a delegation to the president to call up the militia. And in that case, the Supreme Court in 1830 said, that's a decision that's committed to the president's discretion. It's not for a court to review that decision. The plaintiffs try to make out that decision as an outlier, but of course, there have been many cases since then involving unreviewable decisions committed to the executive. The last we cited is the Dalton case.
So is it your view that if the president or a future president simply invokes the statute, gives no reasons for doing it, provides no support for doing it, and
which is not what Trump did at all,
which would appear to a court to justify it, that the court still has no role at all in determining whether the president, this hypothetical future president.
So the question is measuring whether there are factors that the court can measure the president's action against. If the president does something saying, I need the National Guard for X, Y, and Z in compliance with the statute, can the judge even check those boxes? Like, is judicial review entirely foreclosed?
And correctly invoked subsection 3, no role at all, even if the president gives no reasons and there are no facts offered by that president.
Which is not what Trump did, but he's just testing this, to be clear.
That's correct, because if the statute is unreviewable, it's unreviewable. And I would point the court to the last section of the decision in Dalton, where the Supreme Court recognized, yes, Marbury versus Madison says the court decides what the law is, but it also respects that principle when a court recognizes that when a statute is delegating broad discretion to the president, that respecting that also is a judgment that a court should respect. It respects the separation of powers when Congress delegates that decision to the president. But I think, Your Honor, you're speculating about harder cases down the road. This is an easier case because there are facts in the record here that strongly support the president's decision that there was.
Right. So we don't need to explore that hypo. We know what the facts are. They're torching LA. And their own law enforcement said that it was out of control, and Trump deployed the National Guard, as was his right, and he did it reasonably. But the reason for this, right, it might sound kind of, the courts can't check the president. There are checks on the president. If the president does something unlawfully or illegally, there's the impeachment mechanism whereby Congress would say, you can't do that. You can't deploy the National Guard. And we would have an outraged, hopefully, Congress if something dictatorial actually happened, and we would have a check on the presidency in that regard. But if you don't do it that way, if you have a judge who can supersede the president and actually say, you know what, it's not actually a civil unrest that warrants the National Guard, or actually I'm a judge and there is no predatory incursion, or actually I'm a judge and there is no due process violation if you're suing because they closed your business down back during COVID because the government needed to do that and we're very scared all of a sudden. Any of those things, right? All of it would be irrelevant under those guidelines. But here is more from the Newsom team. So we go over to this guy, and his name is Samuel, and kind of quipping about his age, but I actually think it's great how young he is, and he's responsible enough to be out here doing this in California. But it is also pretty dang funny because it looks like he just made the varsity basketball team or something, and now he's delivering arguments on behalf of Gouveia. And so a bunch of questions came his direction, and the judges are actually sounding a little bit incredulous, saying, wait a minute, what authority do you have and what justification do we have for blocking President Trump's order? Here is this conversation.
Limited role of judicial review. How can, with the facts here and the language in Martin v. Mott, how can that test be met here by the state to justify an injunction against the president's actions?
Your Honor, I'd like to respond to Martin and then also explain why the state believes the modern language of Section 12406 can't support the highly deferential, essentially unchecked view of authority under the third prong of the statute.
Okay, so modern interpretations can't support that because it's going to be unchecked and this is going to be dangerous for democracy or whatever this is ultimately is. But that's the argument.
The government is advancing here. So as to Martin, it was a very different case. It involved the determination of a foreign invasion. It's also decided many years ago, well before the emergence of modern political question doctrine cases like Zivotofsky, which say that when a court is addressing a core legal issue like interpretation of a statute as here or the Constitution,
just have to view it in modern terms.
Exercise of judicial review. It's something that courts have a virtually unflagging obligation to do when they have jurisdiction. And I would add, as to Martin, Your Honor, the government has been making a very similar argument based on that case in the Alien Enemies Act context across the country. And as far as I'm aware, courts have uniformly rejected the government's very similar argument invoking Martin in that context, which involves the Alien Enemies Act, which implicates at least something closer to the types of foreign policy or national security considerations that have traditionally led courts not to deem cases justiciable.
So if we were to agree with you that there is some judicial review here, how much discretion, if any, does California believe the president's judgment that this is necessary for him to comply with the take care clause and to take care that the laws be faithfully executed? How much discretion does he have, in California's view, under this statute in deciding when to federalize?
Your Honor, two answers. So I do think, looking at the text of Section 12406, it's important to recognize that this statute illustrates Congress knows how to accord substantial discretion to the president when it wants to do so, because it does accord that type of discretion after a federalization decision has been properly made, consistent with the factual predicates in terms of the numbers of troops that the president deems appropriate to respond to the situation that justified federalization. You don't see that language in the factual predicates justifying the initial federalization decision. And it's an established feature of statutory interpretation.
All right. So basically, don't interpret the rules in your way, interpret them in our way, because a lot of things have changed since the old way. and things are better now. So here's one more little bit from this guy, and then we'll move on. But he said that the question came up, right? One of Newsom's main arguments was you have to go through the governor. The statute uses the word through the governor. And so he's saying, well, if you're coming through me, then I have like a check valve or something, and I can turn that off and block you if it's coming through me. And so there's some sort of implied consent that's involved in that. And spent a good portion of his brief on that one. So let's listen to how he answered this question. Do you have to get Newsy's consent?
Say that issuing it through the governor requires either the governor's consent or requires consultation with the governor. Where in the text do you take that from?
Your Honor, we take it from the plain meaning of through the governor. So that's the first step. What does it mean to be issued through the governor? For the governor to issue it, we think at a minimum that means that the governor needs to be informed of it and given the chance to issue it. And here's why we think that the statute.
And Newsom was informed that if he didn't get control of the situation, Trump was going to act. I don't think that Newsom says that he didn't get notice that like the National Guard was coming out or have an opportunity to object or talk to Trump about that. But Trump says, I already told you, get your affairs in order or we're coming in.
It should be read to include at least a consultation opportunity.
See.
Because the defendant's contrary
15-minute
view would
Zoom.
pose very serious constitutional questions. So under their view, they can just do the whole process without consulting the governor at all and then slap his name at the top of the document at the end of the process. That risks blurring the lines of political accountability in much the same way as the commandeering laws that were struck down by the Supreme Court in cases like Prince and like Murphy. It essentially forces the governor to share in the political responsibility for.
So if we were to disagree with your reading and looked at this as a ministerial task that's in the statute, would there still have been more that the United States would have been required to do other than sending this to the adjutant, who is the governor's subordinate and issues all orders
home
in the name of the governor? Would there have had to have been something directly to the governor's email or mailed? I'm not trying to be facetious here.
Like, what do you want?
But if we disagree with you about consultation and consent, was there anything more that needed to be done here as a technical matter, in your view?
In our view, yes, Your Honor, to issue it through the governor, it needs to at least go to the governor. But if I could, I would like to take one.
Doesn't want to talk about that one. Yeah.
That the federal government's interpretation just can't be right. As I understand it, they do present it as a purely ministerial requirement, essentially a routing requirement to ensure that there's not command confusion in the event that the state guard is transferred to federal authority. The reason we don't think that can be right is there are other federal statutes, most notably the Insurrection Act, which similarly allow the transfer of the National Guard to federal authority and pose the very same types of chain of command confusion the defendants have highlighted here. Those statutes do not include the same through the governor language. So Congress must have had something else in mind when it deliberately chose to add this language to the statute in 1908.
All right, so we got a little bit more. Here is Trump's rebuttal in conclusion. We'll listen to just a little bit of this.
We cited the Dalton case, which was a 1990s decision that invoked the same principle, where a statute is drawn in a way that delegates broad discretion to the president. Courts don't just defer to the president's judgment. Courts don't review the president's judgment. And that's what we have here. And in that case, it was a domestic matter.
Because if the court reviews the president's actions, the court is the president. If Trump needs to get permission to do something from some judge who gets to issue a nationwide injunction or say, turn those planes around, or you can't send people over there, whatever the problem is, they're the president as it relates to that issue if they're usurping executive power, which is what's happening all over the country. California is just one example.
Not a foreign policy matter. So Martin would not be just limited to foreign policy matters. The second point I wanted to make was the easiest path to a decision here is on the third problem. The president made a determination that he is unable, based on with the regular forces, to execute the laws of the United States. The record certainly bears that out, not only in his proclamation, but also in the declarations. made clear, and the plaintiffs have conceded, there is civil unrest in Los Angeles, but not just ordinary civil unrest. Civil unrest is targeting federal law enforcement officials and designed and aimed to prevent them from carrying out their duties. The court should at least defer to the president's judgment under prong 3.
All right, so Trump's DOJ in there in front of the 3 judges. You can see not a lot of activity from 2 of them. Got a couple of questions from this judge, Judge Emmett, and doesn't sound like it went well for Gavin Newsom. And you can just parse through the table of contents there in oral arguments and see how it went. Lots of questions. Why doesn't the president, he needs to like send you a fax machine? He needs to come, does he need to bring flowers? Would Gavin like some chocolates with his request for the National Guard? No, that's not how it works. It's through the governor so that they know it's coming through the chain of command. It's a procedural document situation, and Trump complied with the law. So we'll see what the Ninth Circuit says, but not a good day. Even Kyle Cheney would agree with that for Gavin Newsom. And while all of this is happening, we've got the Attorney General for the Central District of California, who is now saying he's charging the face shields dude. Remember that guy who was showing up and handing out face shields to everybody? Boom, they charged this dude too. Here's a little bit of this announcement.
On June 9th, he drove his truck downtown with an unidentified woman to hand out large quantities of face shields to individuals who appear to be engaged in violence and vandalism. He was not handing them out to peaceful protesters. His actions were captured on video, posted on social media, and observed by Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies. These face shields are designed to protect from chemical splashes and flying debris, which helps protect violent agitators from less than lethal weapons deployed by law enforcement. When the FBI executed a search warrant at his home, they found a powerful wrist rocket-style slingshot and ammunition for the slingshot, including a bag of rocks and containers of metal BBs, a can of spray paint, plastic goggles, and a notebook with the words 1312 Blue Lives Matter 187. 1312 is an abbreviation for All Cops Are Bastards, while 187 is a common slang term for murder. He has been charged with a violation of 18 United States Code Section 371, conspiracy to commit civil disorder, and 18 United States Code Sections 231A3 and 2, aiding and abetting in civil disorders. Each of those charges carries a 5-year statutory maximum sentence. As I mentioned last week, much of the violence has been directed at law enforcement, police officers who are just trying to do their jobs and protect the community.
All right, and remember, this guy got charged with conspiracy to commit civil disorder and other charges. But remember what they did with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers? When they came in and they charged Stuart Rhodes and the Oath Keeper crew with seditious conspiracy because they found a document that somebody had written, probably some Fed somewhere, that had QRF in there, talking about quick reactionary forces. And they were going to set up little teams outside of DC and come swooping in there and all that stuff. Remember that? It was like a cosplay, role play, weird, bizarro thing that was spread around that a lot of, were showing up in a lot of Telegram groups and chat messages and all the things. They charged them with seditious conspiracy. They imprisoned Stuart Rhodes, who was a member of the Oath Keepers, and they didn't do the same thing to Ray Epps, who was a prior member of the Oath Keepers, right? Very different in terms of treatment there. But they charged those guys with seditious conspiracy because they were in a Telegram group and they shared some documents. What do you think is happening with these Antifa illegal alien colluders all across the country? They're Facebook groups. A friend of the show sent in a Facebook group screenshot where they're all sending these messages across openly to obstruct and countermand federal law enforcement. And you've got guys like Gavin Newsom and this young man who are now working to free them, basically, and allow them to continue their reign of terror. And even John Fetterman says, enough of this already, all right? Stop Tim Walz calling ICE agents the Gestapo. Stop attacking federal agents and army soldiers and American citizens. Stop beating up our own people on behalf of people who are here waving foreign flags in our country. Even Fetterman's getting it.
And now with that military parade. Again, you know, there was no goose stepping. Now, like, first of all, let's say stop ever comparing anything to the Nazis and those kinds of things. That's crazy. And now remember, that's our soldiers. That's, you know, this is not an occupying force. You know, this is a 250, anniversary for the Army. Why? I'm not sure why it's outrageous to have a parade to celebrate the Army. Now, look at that video that's on the screen now. That's not, like some kind of like, anything extreme. It's celebrating, a quarter of a millennia about the American Army. It's like, I don't understand why that's controversial.
Because they're nuts, John, because their brains are fried. And they think everything Trump does is really bad. And they screech about whatever it is that happens, no matter what it is that happens, as long as they can attack Trump. So we got a lot happening across the country. Democrat politicians now being arrested and not really suffering any consequences at all. Got taken out of jail by his mom, essentially, Kathy Hochul, and they're probably going to go get ice cream with Gavin Newsom's attorney right before soccer practice and before they go home and finish their homework. So we'll keep our eye on this one, but looks like Trump had a good day over there. Democrats getting arrested, Ninth Circuit agreeing that it is time to allow Trump to execute the law, and we'll keep our eye on this one. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now we're not done yet. Trump's DOJ came out hard today, and we've got a new update. Trump's DOJ now demanding that Judge Zenas dismiss the Kilmar case. You remember this one, and we've been covering it a long time because this Judge Zenas, an Obama appointee, has kept this case way beyond her limits, and now it's time for it to go. Trump submitted this from the DOJ directly to the court. They say, all right, Judge, listen, 3 months ago, we got here with Abrego Garcia, a removable alien with no right to remain in this country. He was removed to El Salvador. You remember that. Abrego Garcia, his wife, Jennifer Vasquez, and the child sued Trump seeking declaratory and injunctive relief, citing an immigration judge's 2019 grant of withholding of removal to that country. Now, I like how they didn't say El Salvador because it's for Guatemala. Now, the relief sought was the return of Abrego Garcia, leading this court, Judge Zenas, to grant an injunction to facilitate the return of Abrego back into our country. Now, plaintiffs, Abrego and Vasquez and the rest of them, remember, Trump did bring Kilmar back and hit him with a bunch of charges, and he's now being prosecuted for a variety of them and unlikely to get out of custody since, human trafficking carries, you could make the argument, 10 years per human. And he transported illegally a lot of humans and a lot of kids too. Now they have gotten the relief they sought. He's back in the United States, probably not ever getting out of custody ever, saying because they have taken extraordinary steps and effectuated Trump Abrego's return to the United States. And since he is now here, your claims and everything that was brought by the ACLU gangbang lawyers in this case is now moot. And you, Judge Zenas, you lack subject matter jurisdiction and you have no choice. The rules say 12B1, you must dismiss this case and do it now. Writing, for the purposes of a motion to dismiss, their allegations are assumed to be true. So Team Kilmar, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt as we do our analysis. They say, let's talk about it. Okay, Abrego Garcia is a citizen and he's a native of El Salvador. His so-called wife, Jennifer Vasquez Sura, and his wife are his wife and child, AAV, right? Two other kids that in her orders of protections where she was begging judges to stop her from being beaten because Abrego was so violent towards her. She called them her kids, my kids. He was attacking her family. Abrego Garcia violated U.S. law by entering the country illegally without inspection in 2011. He hung out in our country forever, never, ever tried to get legal status until recently. In March 2019, Abrego Garcia was served a notice to appear in removal proceedings. They said, you're inadmissible. You're an alien who is present in this country, and you're not allowed to be. And during a bond hearing, in fact, in April, Abrego appeared for his first hearing in immigration court. During a bond hearing, U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, stated that local police had verified through a confidential informant that Garcia was an active member of MS-13, also had the gang sign on his knuckles, also has a bunch of witnesses who are now going to be testifying against him, who are co-conspirators essentially, who all will confirm the same. And thus, he's a danger to the community. And so ICE provided a gang field interview sheet that was generated by the police department, which explained exactly why this guy's a gangbanger. After review of the evidence, an immigration judge denied bond. That's due process. You mean a judge looked at the case, reviewed all the facts, and denied him bond? That's due process. Someone wake up Van Hollen. Abrego Garcia then filed an application for asylum right after. He's like, wait, I gotta go? I'm being removed? This is crazy. He files an application for asylum, withholding of removal, and protection under the CAT, Convention Against Torture. Then he had an individual hearing that took place on August 9th, and he had another hearing on September 27th. The immigration judge found that he was removable, but in the conclusion of the document, look, I still can't believe the DOJ has not caught this yet, but they even say the Barrio 18 gang was targeting him and threatening him because of his family's pupusa business. The judge in the order, 10-10-19 order, okay, he had two hearings. Then Judge David Jones on 10-10-19 came out. In the concluding paragraph, he says, withholding applies to Guatemala. Why? Because the family was in Guatemala presently. They moved. They left El Salvador. The family was in Guatemala. They're under attack there, so he cannot be sent there because they have their pupusa business now in Guatemala, not El Salvador. But anyways, DOJ doesn't care. They say it's moot. You have no jurisdiction anyway, so go. On March 12th, Abrego was stopped by ICE officers, and he was removed and detained in CCOT. On March 24th, ACLU, Vasquez, and the rest of the gangbang lovers from the Democratic Party all sued Trump. They said that they're violating Abrego's claims for withholding of removal. And remember, the DOJ basically adopted this argument because Iraz Ruvani, a person who used to work for the DOJ but has now been relieved and fired, was the person who went into Judge Zenas' courtroom and made some of the worst arguments a lawyer has ever made, which is admitting you were wrong, admitting fault when there were 50 good arguments as to why you were not wrong. Remember, Iraz went in there and he said, Your Honor, I can't explain. Clearly a withholding of removal for El Salvador, even though the order never says El Salvador in the withholding of removal sentence at all. In fact, the conclusion references Guatemala. So a competent lawyer, even if you say that that was not right, would have at least made that argument. Oh, sorry, we were following the conclusion, because that's what the judge wrote, and the logic of the entire opinion confirms that. And they didn't do that because, of course, this was a poison pill. I would bet money that Iraz Ruvani ends up at some big lefty law firm very soon because his job is done. In their complaint, plaintiffs requested this court order Trump to take all steps to return Abrego Garcia to the United States. In fact, they moved for a TRO, and this court construed that as a preliminary injunction, ordered Trump to, remember, facilitate the return of Kilmar. John Roberts even granted the application up to the Supreme Court, and then on April 10th, the Supreme Court upheld the directive, saying you have to facilitate the return, and remanded the case to Zenas to clarify what that meant. What does effectuate mean, giving due regard to the deference owed to the executive branch to conduct foreign affairs? Yeah. On remand, the district court amended the preliminary injunction and ordered Trump to take all steps to facilitate Abrego coming home as soon as possible. And they're going to say, we did. Now, here's what the rules say. When you're faced with a motion to dismiss under 12b1 for lack of subject matter jurisdiction, you have to analyze this. And if the facts fail to support your jurisdiction, you have to dismiss. Here's the argument. Now, you, Judge Zenas, as a court of limited jurisdiction, you only have certain power. You can't hear every case that comes in front of you because you want to. You possess only that power authorized by the Constitution and statute, and you can't expand that power by judicial decree at all. And if people are going to sue, there's got to be actual controversy that you can address. Now, in their complaint, the ACLU brings 5 claims in the gangbang team. A claim that Trump violated U.S. code, the due process claims, 2 due process claims, an APA claim, and saying that Trump was acting arbitrary and capricious. They say at the end of each claim, right? They say, well, you have to be able to solve like each one of these claims. You have to be able to address it. At every conclusion, they say, immediately order Trump to return Abrego to the United States. They go, he's here. What's your problem? So they reflect the same central request to their relief. They say all of this is in violation. They want the immediate cessation of any money being paid down to CCOT. And guess what? After extensive diplomatic efforts on your behalf, we have successfully achieved the requested relief. And since there's nothing else you can do to grant relief, since it's all granted, you got to dismiss. Now that we have facilitated the return, now there's nothing more. We've complied with the court order. We've successfully facilitated his return. And because they have received complete relief, everything that they wrote in their complaint, this court no longer has any effective relief that they can offer. Therefore, there is no longer a live controversy. You can't bring us or bring Kilmar home again. He's already in the United States. So now you can't satisfy what you wrote in your complaint. Even if we say everything is true, you got what you wanted. So this court only has jurisdiction if there is an actual ongoing controversy. While one remained after the court entered the injunction, none does so after he came back. And so therefore, if you do anything else on this case, it's going to be advisory because you can't solve anything. Their claims are moot, and all of the discovery that you ordered, Judge, are also now serving no further purpose. You granted expedited discovery to say, what have we done to bring him back? But guess what? He's back. We got complete relief. He's in the United States. You no longer need discovery to reveal whether we're working with you. We told you we were trying to resolve this, and we did. Now, alternatively, even if this court concludes that this is not moot, it should dissolve the injunction that issued. We satisfied everything you wanted. The party requesting dissolution bears the burden of establishing significant changes. There is a significant change here. He's returned. Everything you wanted has been granted. Now, he's being charged with multiple felonies, and he's probably going to have stacked convictions at the end of it. But he's here. And that begs the question about attorney malfeasance or misconduct. It's like you bring him back. So maybe he could have gotten out of CCOT and been a free man down there. Now he's probably going to be in federal custody for the rest of his life, hopefully. Saying it is impossible because its requirement has been accomplished. Any attempt at continued enforcement would be a waste of judicial resources. That's okay. That's their job right now. And because their claims are moot, Judge, you must dismiss their complaint. Signed by Drew C. Ensign, over for the DOJ, demanding a dismissal of the Kilmar case. And we also saw there's a lot of other things happening. So Kilmar is back being charged. We've got Homeland is now reversing itself. Remember, Trump came out and he's like, well, we like the farmers and we like the hotels. And we all went, what? Then we see a reversal. This is the benefit of having the base speak up and not having rigorous orthodoxy in our party. It's actually good to have people disagreeing with each other and calling each other kooks or whatever for the time being. But it's not a party where we all just follow whatever Lindsey Graham says, right? And so the base spoke up and said to Trump, we don't like this at all. And Homeland Security reversed. White House officials said that they want ICE to now arrest 3,000 illegals per day. And they're going to continue this at farms, hotels, and agricultural businesses. All of it getting reversed. They said the president is incredibly clear. There will be no safe spaces for anybody, said Tricia McLaughlin. Said worksite enforcement remains a cornerstone of our efforts. And others reported last week that Trump might want to reverse this. Even Trump made a statement about it saying we have to do something about this, but not anymore. So back on track there. We also saw great border numbers come out. Border Patrol just released the May monthly border numbers. Stunning. Zero, count them, illegal border crossers released into the U.S. compared to more than 62,000 in May 2024. 62,000 1 year ago. Now, zero. Weird how that happened. And didn't even need to pass a big smorgasbord of garbage immigration reform. Additionally, another 93% decrease to the year on border crossers between ports of entry. All it takes is a little bit of leadership. Great to see it. Now, here is another California official that warns people. We saw, I think, the mayor, Bass, she came out and said that the curfew was going to be lifted. But the sheriff's office came out and says, listen, if you guys get out there creating chaos, we're going to respond accordingly.
To the people of California, we are here to protect your right to speak and be heard. But those who choose to exploit public demonstrations and invite violence, attack officers, or create chaos, know this, we are coming for you. Your actions will not go unanswered. Our officers have shown professionalism, courage, restraint under intense and dangerous circumstances. I'm incredibly proud of the men and women in the California Highway Patrol. We remain unwavering in our mission to provide the highest level of safety, service, and security for everyone who lives and works and travels in the state. Thank you.
Dangerous work. That's crazy, because I heard that the media was telling us it was just peaceful everywhere we saw. It was just people. Those were peaceful fireworks. Those were peaceful bricks. And those were peaceful spits that were coming out of deranged liberal mouths. Now, here's Tricia McLaughlin over Tricia, Ohio, says, you can help yourselves, illegals. Just download the app and deport yourselves. Save us all some trouble.
We are seeing illegal aliens take advantage of this program. So this is the CBP Home app. It's available on any phone, and you download it, you put in your personal information, and we will get you a free flight, a courtesy of the U.S. taxpayer, so generously giving that flight, as well as a $1,000 exit bonus for those who are in this country illegally. It saves U.S. taxpayers 70%, because the average arrest and deportation, if that's what it comes down to, is about $17,000 versus this would be around $2,000 or $3,000. So we really encourage illegal aliens to take advantage of that. It's incredibly generous of U.S. taxpayers, but it is also make sure that our law enforcement is safer. These arrests can be very dangerous to make. It's also safer for the illegal aliens. So, I mean, our message to Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass is there doesn't need to be a single arrest. You should be telling those in your community who are here illegally to self-deport now. They still that way they still preserve the potential opportunity to come back into this country the legal right way. But if we have to arrest, detain, and deport these people, they won't be able to come back.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Tricia, for explaining it so simply. Don't have to fight about it. I don't know why they have to be so difficult about everything. Just follow the law. No one's above the law except Senator Padilla and Brad Lander over from New York, and, you know, Tishy and Fanny and a bunch of others. But we're going to continue to work on that, my friend. So we'll keep our eye on this. We've got the Kilmar case. Trump drops a motion to dismiss, demanding it finally goes away. You've got no more claims here. We'll be covering it. We'll see what this judge does to keep the case, because we know that she will. All right. So now, one final update on the day, and then we'll hear from you. Another interesting one here. And the story is a little troubling. Yeah. A former sharpshooter has been arrested and charged for threatening to eliminate President Trump. Kash Patel saying this dude was inspired by the former FBI director, James Comey, who posted 8647 after his little seashell sandcastle experiment over there on the beach. Kash posting this saying, this is a guy who also threatened Trump's life using the same language. This is the exact kind of copycat law enforcement is now frequently dealing with, thanks to James Comey's destructive Instagram debacle, right? And we all know what James Comey was doing. Kind of wants to seed this conversation. And he said, what does that mean? I'm James Comey. I'm a moron. I don't know anything. I was in the FBI for like 10 years. No idea what I'm talking about. And now other people are spreading the conversation, programming people, giving people permission to go out and try to take out Trump again for the third time, and probably more times than that. But we also know this dude has an interesting background. So the suspect is this guy, Peter Stinson. He was an officer in the United States Coast Guard from 1988 to 2021, and he was a sharpshooter as well as a femur instructor during that time. We're going to look at the affidavit. The criminal charges did come down. FBI was involved in the case, made a bunch of graphic threats about Trump. Stinson also said that he doesn't have the necessary skills to do this, but said he wasn't being truthful on that. Like, yeah, I do have the skills. So the guy posted a bunch of stuff about this, but we know that there's a lot of energy on the left to have this happen. We remember the last time Trump was shot in the head, they had FBI agents kind of washing the blood off of the building. They had the body of Crooks incinerated without any other expert witness to come in and validate who he is or check his blood, check for drugs, check where the gunshots entered or exited. None of that. Remember, the body was torched. Congress joined a bipartisan committee to go investigate it. And then they showed up there and the body was gone. Building was clean. There's no evidence. Remember all that? Yeah. And the same thing with that other Ruth guy. Remember, he was, I guess, flying back and forth to Ukraine and doing some fishy things there. But now we've got this guy, right? Former Coast Guard dude, and is a sharpshooter to boot. So the case has been filed in the Eastern District of Virginia, assigned to this judge, Ivan Davis. Complaint filed back on the 13th. Bunch of stuff been happening at this moment. He currently has a public defender and filled out a financial affidavit saying, I can't afford an attorney, and then got his public defender. So we got the charging document and the affidavit that was submitted by Michael Blake, who is over with the FBI. He says, all right, here's the deal. I'm a U.S. Park Police Detective Sergeant assigned to the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Unit. And in preparation for this assignment, as part of my education, I've completed a bunch of stuff and I know how to look at records. Now, as a federal agent, I'm also authorized to investigate violations of the law. I can execute search warrants, and I believe that there is probable cause to believe that Stinson has committed and continues to commit violations of 18 U.S. Code Section 871, which is threats against the president. Here's the background. Stinson, currently living in Oakton, Virginia, Eastern District of Virginia, in the jurisdiction of this court. Department of Defense databases reveals Stinson was an officer in the United States Coast Guard from 88 to 21. During that time, he achieved the rank of lieutenant, received firearms training, was awarded sharpshooter ribbons for pistol qualification in 1988 and rifle qualification in 1989. Received extensive training in operations and planning, and was an instructor in FEMA's Incident Command Systems, a series of courses taught to first responders and government personnel to prepare for and respond to disasters and emergencies. He also received a master's degree in National Security and Strategic Studies from the United States Naval War College. Now, Stinson has self-identified as a member of Antifa. You're kidding me. Including in his profile descriptions for his Blue Sky account and his X account at Blue Check Peter and CG Blue, and in multiple postings on these accounts. In fact, on Blue Sky, his account reads in the profile, Virginia Antifa. It's like a member of the group. On his X account, his profile reads #Antifa. Many of these people operating openly. And are they going to be charged with seditious conspiracy? Are the ringleaders of Antifa going to be charged with insurrection like they did to the Proud Boys or to the Oath Keepers? We'll see. We hope so. Additionally, on February 1st, Stinson posted on Blue Sky. He said this, everyone has a story. Everyone is dealing with some stuff. I don't give a poop about fascists. And to everyone else, stick together, said this guy. We are Antifa. Together, we can unalive the fascism. Then on February 2nd, he posted the same thing. He says, sure, this is war. Sides will be drawn. Antifa always wins in the end. Violence is inherently necessary, right? And you might say, well, this guy's like a Ryan Ruth, crazy person or whatever. Doesn't sound like it. It sounds like he's pretty dang credentialed in a number of different government vicinities. So based on my training and experience, I understand Antifa is an acronym for anti-fascist, where they are basically fascists, and refers to individuals who oppose fascism. Okay. It is more of an ideological concept than a single organization or group, but like-minded individuals may collectively act together and form a group. Such groups have been known to engage in coordinated attacks like the Black Bloc to impede law enforcement and to use violence to further their cause. Stinson also purports to own firearms. In fact, on March 4th, he posted on Blue Sky, he said, target practice tonight. I set some orange emojis on the railing. Let's shoot some oranges. Plink, plump, boom, bop. Like Bill Cosby. Stinson operates Blue Account 1 and the X accounts. And Your Honor, here's what he has done. In posting on his various accounts, Stinson has consistently used a group of code names to refer to Trump as the Orange, Orange MF, Orange Thug, Krasnov, TFG, One Ear, which is a pretty good name. Like if Trump was like an evil henchman in a Hollywood film, it's like One Ear would be a good name. It's One Ear. Why does he say that? You don't want to know. He's got one ear. Yeah. And an orange emoticon. These code names are directly explained by Stinson. They all mean Trump, as we would imagine. Now, the email accounts that are used to register the accounts are from him. Peter Partisan at an email address, and another one, Pastinson, P.A. Stinson at his website. The website also is not currently hosted, but a check of the archive.org reveals screenshots from 2021 and 2023 containing a copyright to Peter A. Stinson. Nailed it. Additionally, Peter Stinson is not currently hosted, but a check of archive.org found screenshots from 07 to 2023 saying he's a resident of Portsmouth, VA, with a link to his Google profile, along with a photo of a bald white male with a goatee who looks just like he does on his driver's license photo that they just went and snagged. So we confirmed that he runs these accounts. We also checked subscriber details that went through X, shout out to Elon, and T-Mobile. According to records that came out from X, the account was created on December 31st, 2016. Another account created on January 1, 2020. Accounts both registered using the phone number ending in 7651. Account subscriber information provided by T-Mobile attributed to phone number 1 and said it was Stinson. They also gave a known address and his date of birth. Additionally, other posts made by him are consistent with him, and the pictures that he has matches his photo. So I also confirmed, says this FBI agent, that the Blue Sky account also belongs to him. He created that same account, registered it using the name Peter, used the same email account, which has been verified by Google as being created using Stinson's known social security number, right? Google's got that tied to your email, allegedly. Additionally, now the IP address also used to access the account goes to ending in 168, resolves to Verizon FiOS. That address is a regional hub, provides service to an area where Stinson lives. A check on the website shows Stinson's home address is using FiOS services. Further, the account's biographical information is also consistent with his ID, and his profile on X read, permit holder, father of 5, Coast Guard vet, writer and counselor by education, Generation Jones, Virginia Antifa, link tree to May Day protest. Now, Affiant, this FBI guy, says that the phrase permit holder and May Day protest are references to the currently ongoing May Day protest in D.C., which Stinson organized. He even got a permit for this, and he's currently the leader of one of these groups. The mission statement of the protest, according to the website, is to achieve the impeachment, conviction, and removal of President Trump. Additional identifying information in the post and multiple posts with photos of Stinson, including a photo of him in a Coast Guard uniform with the name Stinson on top. We also have a link to a YouTube video called The May Day Movement, the Peter Stinson interview, in which Stinson is interviewed and introduces himself by name. So then, in February, he began calling for the unaliving of President Trump. On February 8th, he posted a photo on his X account that appeared to be a screenshot of a Snapchat post. The photo was of an animated figure with the likeness of Stinson and text across the image that stated the following. He wrote, "I have been voting for 40 years. Never have I felt compelled to put a political bumper sticker on my car until now. Hashtag vote blue no matter who 2020. That was back in 2020, February 8th. What has sent me here? The treatment of Lieutenant Colonel Vindman's pushed me over the edge. That's the last straw. The orange must go at any cost." 4 years ago, man, 5 years ago. On April 1st, 2020, in response to that, and in response to a post that read this, someone posted this, some maniac said, "You see Trump drowning. What are you throwing him?" Stinson posted, "This morning I feel like I would hit him in the head with an oar. He wants us dead, so I can say the same thing about him." Now, on April 4th, in response to a post by another user reading, a visibly angry Trump at the White House just now on the whistleblower says someone ought to sue his butt off. Stinson replied with the following. Somebody ought to do more than just sue this orange MFer, is what he said, which of course we disavow totally. It involves a rifle and a scope, but he can't talk about it here, right? Intimating about what he's going to do. I can't talk about it here. So is he just blowing smoke, or where's this going to go? Now, your affiant believes that this post refers to Vindmans, who was reassigned from the National Security Council after testifying about Trump's call to Ukraine. Yeah. Here, now, he's saying, I will participate in this. I'd be willing to pitch in $100. Wow, that's a lot. For a contract. Who wants to join me? We could solve the solvable part of this problem in a crack. Then we can focus on the coronavirus itself, which so it's like 5 years ago. Dude is talking about taking out Trump. So then on April 5th, in response to a post by another user, said, we've been focused on resisting Trump and supporting investigations into his crimes. But the only way to stop Trump is to vote him out in numbers that he can't overcome by cheating. Get involved and get out the vote. Everything is riding on this election. He said, actually, there is another way out of this mess. But it would be messy and illegal. But he says it might be what we have to do, however, right? Talking about like that he's going to do it. So on April 6th, in response to another post, he says, they were artificially stopped by the virus. He says, what a moron. Would someone just eliminate him? Sick. And followed with an additional post. He says, I would do it. I would take the fall to save America. Too bad I don't have the operational skills to pull it off, so maybe I can't do it. I'm willing to serve in a support capacity for someone with the skills to take care of things. Okay. If that was Enrique Tarrio, okay, the so-called leader of the Proud Boys, who got arrested and imprisoned even though he was not even there on January 6th for crying out loud. I mean, basically, they said he said stuff like this. They imprisoned him for like 20 years, right? They tried to make stuff up like this, and this dude is saying he's going to join in and take Trump out. It's wild that he would even write that. I'm willing, and I'll pay for it too. I got some money in here, so it's starting to stack up. On April 15th, in response to this, he also responded, there must be somebody who can do this. Just do it, please. I'll work on this. I'll drive. Again, on July 6th, in response to another post, he said, someone else said, talking about the virus, he says, I can't shoot, but I can drive, which is obviously ridiculous because he was a sharpshooter. Now, on July 7th, Stinson replied to a post reading, Trump's official withdrawal is an act of reckless from the World Health Organization. He says, I know a way we can stop Trump. My skills aren't up to the task, but I can drive. He also said, someone else said, why are Trump users unable to understand Trump, whatever? He responded that he would eliminate Trump. Another post, I would eliminate Trump, right? A lot of this is like, I'd do it. I'd do it right there, but I'm not a good enough shot. Okay, more acts of volition, more statements of a volitional act coming. In response to another post, he said there would be no patriotic funeral. We'd make sure of that, whatever that means. So a bunch of these statements, right? All drive. I'm willing to drive. He needs to be punched to a different reality. Start to add these up. He said, let's end the nightmare. All drive. Let's put him out of his misery. Only if I could do it with impunity. And we also don't want to talk about it. So lots of bad statements in here, right? Wants to pull the weapon. He wants to twist the weapon. Elon Musk, back in 2022, so now we're getting a little closer in time, bought Twitter, renamed Twitter to X. Many people went and joined Blue Sky, which is terrible. Stinson stated, I would take the shot, but I'm a lousy shot, and it would be a waste. But does it make me a bad person for wanting this person gone? Would I be a bad person if I pulled the trigger? Is what he said. In reply to another post by another user that has been deleted, they show a photo of this dude holding up 2 books with the caption stating, starting my indoctrination. Also, more conversations, a bunch of this stuff. he made the following replies. Biden should act on the decision and end the greatest threat to the American experiment since the Confederate States succeeded so that white men could own black people. Ready the strike package. I guess to take out Trump. Then we get to 24. During a campaign rally, Trump got shot in the head. The video of the attempt was immediately distributed. Stinson posted a series of messages on Blue Sky, right? And we were kind of waiting for him to pop off about the recent attempts, but this has been going on for years now. Based on the timing and substance of the post, I think it was him, says this guy. Here are the following posts. He said, those Secret Service agents move very slowly. They left him in the open way too long. A missed opportunity. Sick. Will not come around again. They will teach this to future agents as a failure to protect and act, which is all true. What a-hole thought he was good enough to complete the mission and then really F it up? It takes skills. It takes practice. Most of us are not capable. As noted before, I'm not a good enough shot. Very few people are. Somebody needs to learn this lesson. Says you want to play in the big leagues, you need the talent. Luck is not a plan. Execution is critical. Now, on the same day, in response to a post by someone else, he said the county DA, he said, 3 inches to the right and the shot would have gone through the eyeball. He says, make sure practice, practice, practice. This is the Democratic Party and Antifa right now. And to eliminate him in the process, and it's just, a lot of bad stuff that we don't need to dive too far into. But snipers, better choices, making responses about Rubio. 2 things I learned this year is learn to plan in your head and not on paper. Destroy all the evidence before it happens, right? 2-inch comments, talked about poison, talking about needing to disperse things. It's going crazy. Orange emoji, poop emojis. I'll tell you what needs to be eliminated, he said. He said, Blue Sky is also in an amazing place to announce an intention to do assassinations. Keep it up, someone said. Stinson replied, all in, right? Somebody was saying, why don't you just keep talking about how you're going to eliminate the president? See how this works out for you. He said, I'm all in, baby. He says, if we're planning eliminations, I'd like to suggest someone. So the guy's just going crazy. They got a whole 19 pages of this. Planning continues. And he just keeps going, right? So a lot of it's the same. We don't need to spend time just talking about it. He's talking about, I would twist the knife, totally going nuts. Can we get crowdsource on a contract? If I had the skills, kind of descending, right, by the year. This is wild because you can see this dude just go more and more nuts. On March 4th, can we start a GoFundMe for a hitman? He needs to be Luigi'd, right? These are the people who like Taylor Lorenz cheering on this guy. Well, he's pretty handsome, though. If he shoots someone in the back, it really gets my, anyways. On May 16th, Stinson posted an image containing the numbers 8647, just like James Comey wanted people to do. This is likely in reference to an Instagram post by James Comey of a photo spelling out 8647 that James Comey found some seashores down by the Seychelles. The post by Comey was interpreted in the news media as a violent threat because that's what it was. And now that's all this guy keeps posting, right? Now been activated by Comey. On February 20th, 25, a thread started by another user over on Reddit says Trump blames Biden for high prices. Wow. He says, well, he'd look better dead, right? Your affiant believes that Reddit account 1 was operated by Stinson. He used the same email addresses, same phone number. And it sounds like him. He posted a bunch of stuff on Reddit. I'm working with a group that has one demand, impeachment and conviction. We're here until he leaves, talking about J.D. Vance being evil and more. Another Reddit account talking about rounds to someone's chest. Instagram account posted a video of himself making a speech with a caption called 8647. Someone tagged him, hey, FBI Director Cash. This guy's calling for Trump's elimination in his post. I'd like to see him charged and thrown in prison. Well, congratulations, Instagram user. You got your wish. Amazing. Another user commented, hey, FBI Bongino. Hey, FBI Cash. This dude is trying to eliminate the president. So make sure you report these things because they're getting the message. On June 11th, he also posted on Blue Sky. He says, when Trump is gone, the party's going to be huge. And so with all of that, just disgusting language that is illegal, He is now being charged, courtesy of Michael Blake, FBI Bureau of Investigation task force officer, saying violations of 18 U.S. Code, which are threats against the president. And they got a nice laundry list of things this guy has said that are not going to go well in front of a jury. So he has been arrested, and it looks like he's being detained pending his detention hearing. The government is seeking detention. He's got another court date coming up tomorrow, it looks like. We'll see if that date happens or if it is vacated. But he is remanded pending his detention hearing, which we'll see if that happens tomorrow or not. But he also has got a public defender, was advised of disclosure, turn over any exculpatory evidence under the Brady case. And of course, he also is going to be held in custody. So pending the detention hearing, which is coming up, it looks like tomorrow at 2 p.m. So pending the hearing, he is going to be detained in custody. And you must bring him to court at the time to discuss whether we'll release him or make him post bond or whatever the situation may be, courtesy of the judge, Ivan D. Davis. So we'll see. You know, he's very likely going to try to get out, but we'll see what his arguments are, saying that I've got no prior criminal history and I've not been, this was all just First Amendment stuff, free speech stuff. It's not a true threat. And he's got no evidence of violence, not a failure to appear, not a flight risk, nothing like that. They'll make that argument tomorrow. And he has just been, it looks like, charged via criminal complaint. So we'll see if they come back and hit him with an indictment on this maybe by tomorrow. So we'll keep our eye on that. Meanwhile, we saw another assassin has been traveling around the world. Remember this dude, this was the guy who went in Minnesota, started taking out state reps and senators, says from the Oversight Project, says we started tracking this guy's records and his movements as well. Says we geofence Belter's family farm and we found a unique device that was on that farm. We followed that device over the last 3 years and guess where it went? Africa, Nepal, Washington, D.C., releasing all this information to share it with us, saying first we located a device called an ad ID that had traveled in the vicinity of Butler's farm, same area where the police helicopter was tracing the family residence before the arrest. We followed all travel in and around the Minneapolis region, and you see there's the helicopter path. There are the locations this dude traveled, pinging the ads, right? So your phone is just constantly pinging Facebook or whatever. And so they're just following it. What's more interesting is the amount of international travel also linked to this device. Nepal, Africa, Turkey, India, Dubai. Also visited some major cities in DC and other places like the Chicago Yacht Club. Strange. We're going to continue our investigation and see if these people have any more connections or something that just causes them to go nuts, right? Because this guy just seems like this guy went nuts, texted his family, hey, sorry, just had to go assassinate a couple people. See you at home tonight. What's for dinner? And the other guy was apparently a Coast Guard, well-decorated person, been in government work for a long time, and then just decides he's just going to start talking about taking out the president, although his was incubating for quite some time. So we've got more arrests. James Comey and the Democrats, right? They're seeding this stuff. They would love it to happen, as he explained to us. We've got open organizations of actual seditious conspirators called Antifa and elements inside the Democratic Party, maybe drug cartels, maybe Tren de Aragua, who are now taking over buildings again in Colorado, are behind a lot of this, and they want someone to do it, God forbid. So thankfully it didn't happen. FBI stepped in. James Comey should be ashamed of themselves, and we appreciate Cash enforcing the law and making sure these people are arrested and prosecuted. All right, my beautiful friends. Well, it has been an amazing stream, and we're very grateful that you're here. Quick recap, if you're just joining us. We learned a little bit at the very start that Kristi Noem was taken to the hospital. Let's check back in on this story. Here we go. Trisha said Kristi Noem had an allergic reaction today. She was transported to the hospital out of an abundance of caution, but she's alert and recovering. All right, that's it. What kind of allergic reaction was it? Hopefully not polonium. All right, so that's the latest on that. Been keeping our eye on the cables. Have not seen President Trump come out, so it doesn't look like we're going to get a presidential address tonight. Let's check C-SPAN. There were some rumors about that on X. They had a Situation Room meeting today, or National Security Council briefing, and is he going to come out? No one really knows. So it doesn't look like that's going to happen as far as we can tell. C-SPAN doesn't have anything for us. And so now it's time to hear from you. But quick recap on what we hit today. If you're just joining us, you want to hit the rewind button to see this dude just get thrown out after obstructing federal ICE agents. And we had some good fun with this one because he really had a hard time kind of processing what was happening here. Went through the videos, showed how his mom came and got him from the principal's office, walked him out. Wife was, there you go, sweetie. Great job. You got your zone 2 cardio in today. Good job for you. And spent some time on that, and we really enjoyed. There's some really good images of this dude right here. I think it's this one. That one right there. Really good photos around. I think the AP has some good photos of that one too. So it's good. Somebody should hang that outside his office. Anyways, we've got that. We had a Kilmar update. Trump now demanding a dismissal of this case. Like, enough already. We'll, of course, see how Judge Zenas contorts herself into a pretzel to keep her pause on this matter and see what Kilmar's people do. We saw great numbers from Border Protection. We've got California Highway Patrol, not the sheriffs, who are explaining what's happening there. And Kash Patel and the FBI have arrested a former Coast Guard sharpshooter who was threatening to eliminate Trump and getting pretty close to doing it, or talking about doing it. Now arrested and in federal custody pending a detention hearing. And so, of course, my friends, we're going to keep our eye on all these stories. Thank you so much for subscribing and joining us as we do. We had a great members only stream this morning too. If you haven't become a member yet, we'd really love it if you did. This morning on Locals or on YouTube, this morning we talked about a bunch of great stories. In fact, a lot of the war stuff we got into this morning. So here's a little bit of what that looked like this morning. If you want to become a member, you can join on YouTube or join on Locals. But we went through this Tucker battle and talked about how Tucker was called a kook by Trump, of course, and how there's a little bit of a backlash about that. So spent some time talking about that. Fun story. And, you know, I think an interesting development. A lot of people very upset about that, but I think we had a little bit of a different take on that. So we went through that. We talked about Ken Paxton and non-citizens who are now being charged. We talked about Ted Cruz and his wife got threatened. And we talked about the Chinese and their fake mail-in ballots. So a great members only stream this morning. Lots of fun over there. Thanks to everybody who joined us on Locals and of course on YouTube as a membo. We really appreciate you becoming membos, supporting our work, joining us when we go live in the mornings. All good stuff. All right. So, but now my friends, it's time to hear from you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us with some amazing super chats. And I think we got some new membos I saw come in joining us. Oh, this morning, I have to make this announcement. We learned a very important fact about a very important person in our community called Kay Bean, who mods the fort down for us and keeps things nice and orderly around here. One thing we learned is that apparently her great uncle, let's see if we can find this here, great uncle, scrolling, is responsible for tater tots. What the heck did I do with this? Here it is. My two great uncles invented the tater tot. Praise K Bean's uncles. They owned Orita and we're trying to figure out what to do with the French fry scraps. You're welcome. So now we know. We love K Bean even more because she comes from tater tot heirs. What's going on? So that was a great comment. And then I think what we saw this one come in from Wes Downer. He corrected us this morning. He says, hey, moron, it's pronounced Orida, as in Oregon and Idaho. Or Orida. All right. And I enjoyed our musical discussion last night. Keep in mind that Mozart, the composer of the Magic Flute, had like 15 children, which isn't very feminine. I know we were talking about the flute yesterday and how it's kind of a gay instrument. I know. I didn't say that. Actually, Greg Gutfield did, but I laughed my butt off when I heard him say that. He was talking crap about Jesse Waters. It was fun. Great conversation. Shout out to all the flautists out there. From Orida. Hey, it's T-Bone Tuesday, baby. Yes. Tomahawk Tuesday. Tri-Tip Tuesday. Tater Tot Tuesday. But we don't want any tacos, no pupusas, and no guacamole. Absolutely no guacamole. Hey, Tim Jake, what's up? Says, today the Fifth Circuit officially withdrew its opinion in U.S. versus Peterson that asserted suppressors are not covered by the Second Amendment. Is that right? So was there like a full panel decision? The small panel said no, and then they came up with a reversal of that. Hey, rub some dirt on it. What's up, rub some dirt on it? Hey, good schmedium shirt today, Rob. What do you, what? You can't even see it. How can you even see it? I know you can't see it, and you can just see a floating head. Like in Disneyland or something, in the Haunted Mansion. Third Railify. It's camouflage. You can't see anything, rub some dirt on it. Third Railify. What's up, Third Railify? Great to have you rating our stream. We appreciate you doing that. Shout out to our Third Railify friends. Check out their channel and support their work. Hey, CF Rob. Hopefully there was nothing placed in her path nefarious, like a nefarious chemical. That's what I'm saying. Like, what kind of allergy is it? Like, hopefully not polonium. Remember, the senator who tried to rush the press conference? Yeah, Padilla. He may have had a nefarious purpose that was also thwarted. Yeah. Although I think his nefarious purpose is just his existence. Tim S., as a senator, says, Tim S., seems like most of the politicians getting arrested for obstructing ICE are New York City adjacent. Keep it up. Soon, there's not going to be anybody to stop ICE in New York City. Yeah, and we think these are just bastions of illegality, like literal criminal illegality and illegal alien illegality in New York and California. Like 1 million, think about 1 million illegals in New York City. Like 1 million. 2 Wyomings. It's crazy. Rubos are here. Says the FBI asked spy agencies to destroy intel on the alleged China plot. We talked a little bit about that this morning, the Rubos. And I saw Chuck Grassley also sent another follow-up letter on that. Apparently the Chinese were importing fake driver's licenses and printing fake ballots, which was reported at the time, but it was covered up by the FBI. They got the report. They said, we got to re-interview that person. Buried it all, which we already all knew. Mock Schnell, just an FYI, everyone was talking about the Moab being our largest bomb, but this is false. This is an air fuel bomb. We have the MOP bomb called the GBU-57AB. MOP is our largest high explosive bomb. It weighs 27,000 pounds. Wow. So that's like 1.5 fannies. Oh my gosh. That's a big bomb. Wow. You can understand though. So Iran's like, they're like, we're going to drop Fannie Willis on you. On our nuclear reactor? Yeah. We surrender. War's over. Mimi, what's up, Mimi? Thank you for becoming a supporter. We appreciate you being here. Mimi in the house. We'll see you in the after party. NY Renal says the comptroller incriminated himself when he said, I will let go once I see the warrant. Yeah, who are you? Why do you have jurisdiction to act as a gatekeeper in between federal agents and other illegal aliens? Like, who the hell do you think you are? But thank you for admitting that. I'm going to stop saying that word because I forgot we got 4-year-olds listening to the show. Hey, Whoopsie Daisy. I can't say that word either, the H word. What is going on with Kathy Hochul's upper lip? That's a good question. We try not to look too hard at that. Is there anything strange going on there? I don't know. Good question. We'll have to come back on it. Hey, Whoopsie Daisy. Good to see you. NY Renal. If you enter a federal building with even the intent to commit a crime, that's burglary. Then there is conspiracy when you send the media team in and tell them to film from 3 angles. Set up some lighting here. Make sure we're mic'd up too. Former Elio, what's up, former? Hey, maybe it's time to send a message and prosecute these fools to act as a deterrent. Makes 0 sense to catch and release them. Yeah, I think the only response to that is like they want to be martyrs, and if you make them a martyr and you charge them, they're just going to exploit that for their own gains. And a lot of their people love that, like in New York. Probably mostly illegals who are voting now. So Jack Flack, what's up, Jack? Jack, thank you for becoming a membo. Grab the stream from this morning, and we'll see you in the after party if you care to join us. Off-Label Podcast. Make sure you're supporting their work right next door on the tubes and the rumbles. Says Hochul's upper lip doesn't move. Also, when does giving aid and comfort become levying war against? I think we are close to finding that out. Yeah, I think that's right. If you have foreign invaders waving illegal aliens waving foreign flags in our country, and senators are inviting them in and defending them and rallying for them, what is that exactly? Rick Donner, what's up? 13 months as a membo. Thank you, Rick. Working on the second baby, and we're getting close to that. Almost 2 full babies. That's a lot of time together. Thank you, Rick, for being here for so long. I love broccoli. Have you noticed Trump changes his opinion the moment Netanyahu contradicts him? I am MAGA, and this is pathetic, says I love broccoli. I haven't been paying close enough attention to anything Netanyahu says to be able to track that, to be honest with you. I feel like what we're seeing from Trump and the administration is a lot of very aggressive talking, which we're pretty used to. Remember, we had 140% tariffs on China, and now it's not. Remember, we were going to tax Mexico or tariff Mexico and Canada 25% or whatever, and now it's not. A lot of that. Remember, little rocket man with North Korea was going to get blown to smithereens. He got his finger on the button, all that crap, and he walked across the line, and they talked it out. I remember with Soleimani, there was when they took out Soleimani, people were screaming about that, and that was kind of the end of it, right? As far as our involvement went. So I understand that it's very precarious at the moment, and it feels like, if you're following the media and a lot of the war enthusiasts and propaganda that's out there, certainly feels like we're on the precipice of launching an attack. Might even happen tonight or something like that. But until that happens, I think we might just be seeing a lot of what we normally see from Trump, which is very aggressive language in the interest of coming to some sort of broader resolution. And I'm also hopeful that that is the case, because I don't want to be involved in another foreign war. Been in wars my whole life, and I'm sick of it. As our country, I have not personally served, but the people who have, I think, are also not interested in some foreign war by and large. Rob, what's up? Common theme. You did it, Joe. You're next president of the United States. You did a good job, Joe, answering all those questions. And yeah, you did a good job trying to save that illegal alien. From Rob on Rumble. Good to see you, Rob. Knox Bierman is here. Hey, happy Tuesday, all. I had a client charged with assault on a peace officer for dropping a glass margarita mix bottle on the ground and splashing the cop. Got splashed. It's not funny. That's what I'm talking about. It's not funny, but it's real. These cops, man, a cop got splashed by a margarita mix. I guarantee that's true, because I've experienced stuff like that too. I'm like, what are you talking about? Where is the injury? I'm like watching the body cam back, like up right there. I'm like, what? What was that? Are you kidding me? Your cop's complaining about that and charging? Like, is he pathetic, or is she pathetic? What are you doing? Anyways, Knox, wild, sick. That's what happens though. It's true. G-Men. Yeah, talking about the knees comments. Like, oh, Padilla, come on. Is your part? Well, anyways, Mock Schnell. Rob, as always, you're doing a great job. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Hey, I finally going to take some time for myself and head into the woods for the next 4 days. Figured I would drop a few more membos to cover the week. Mock Schnell, man, that sounds amazing. So I hope you have a great time, a very safe and restorative trip. Soak up some of that nature for us. And when you return, we'll have you back just glowing with the new energetic lightness to you. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for that. Hey, G-Men. I thought that Newsom's argument was that POTUS had to declare the Insurrection Act in order to federalize the Guard and to deploy them domestically. No. That might have been a part of it. I think that the big arguments that I saw were about notice, and there were a bunch of arguments in there. Due process. So that was probably a part of it. Thank you, G-Man, for bringing it up. Mock Schnell, hey, strange to see the Ninth Circuit to actually take a sensible line of questions instead of the crazy line the liberal court always seems to do. From Mock Schnell. Yeah, what are they going to say? Actually, we do want Trump to wreck our cities. They're like watching it happen on their news. Granny Joe, what's up, Granny Joe? Gifted a membo to HWNY. Thank you, Granny Joe, for doing that, for being a membo and bringing in new membos. We got Mock Schnell making good on that promise before he heads off into the woods, bringing in 50 membos. Let's give him welcomes in. O. Peterson is here. Lloyds of Rochester. What's up, Brad Thorne? Robert Diet. Praz D. Zeeks is here. Oopsie Poopsie Homestead. We got Mighty Marsha, MM362, Run VS, Shark Attack. What's up, Adam? Calvin Stover Jr. What's up, Diane Tackett? Kaylee Ollie, Kristen Linnett. Fish Ventura, S is here. Transplanted Texan, Rusty Rambler, Steve C., Shannon Whipkey, Tassa Barish. We got Wiley Sow, Dark Scepter, The Fett, Martin Timberlake, Ron and Ellen Adventures, Mike Matlick, Kiska Hamblin, Maria Nigri. We got BBB, Melissa G. Perez, Porsche Saw Jones, Butters, Runs with Scissors, 3, and Tammy Lee. All gifted membos courtesy of Mock Schnell. Mountain Man. Rick D. What's up, Rick D? Thank you for flagging that one for us. Yeah, apparently it was just a little bit of bad sushi or something. No one knows. This old guy says, Newsom's attorney is only here for the practice. He has actual practice court later this evening. I mean, I appreciate that. That guy, like, honestly, shout out to that dude. Like, that's a big thing for that dude, you know? To be that young. I don't know how young he is. Maybe he's an older dude. Maybe he's like 45. I don't know. But he kind of looked young, didn't he? It was fun. He's got soccer practice tonight. So he's got to finish up this oral argument so he can do his homework and get to bed before mom is mad at him for not brushing his teeth. Doggone it. Says, I'm having tater tots right this very moment. Thank you, K. Bean, for your beautiful gift to the planet. Doggone it, enjoy. Hey, call me legend. Says, could a judge make an injunction stopping all other judges from issuing injunctions? Yeah, that's why I wanted to be a judge, actually, because then I could just run the whole country for 5 minutes. I'd injunction all the judges right out of their offices. Yeah, kind of like God can make a rock so big he can't lift it. Yeah. One judge says these injunctions are totally illegal, and I'm now banning them everywhere. And of course, other judges would say, well, you don't have jurisdiction over me. They'd say, how dare you? You don't have jurisdiction over me. You're a whole separate district. See, that's my point, punks. Keep your injunctions to yourselves. Stop rubbing them all over us. Pervs. And yeah, that's exactly right. So you got to keep your injunctions to yourselves. So one judge could cause that reaction by just issuing his injunctions over someone else. Mock Schnell, 20 more membos coming in. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Look who's here. Chuck Reardon, Littering and Picky Raglan. What's up? The Mirror Man, Becky Osborne, Angela Knapchuck. What's up? Devin Wargo. We got Celsify. E. Poindexter is here, running free. J.R. Williams, Greg, Caitlin Woodward, Badger Pack. What's up, Liberty Bell? Linda Miller, Pink Snoot. We got The Oracle is here. Just Another Patty, Milo Das, and Miss Vicky May all shouting out Mock Schnell for bringing in the newest of membos. Tons coming in, courtesy of Mock Schnell today. Rick D is here, says, the U.S. Army filed for a permit to be granted a grand parade back in June 2024 when Biden was there. Joe Biden's administration proved this. The parade was not created by Trump, nor was it intended to coincide with his own birthday. Courtesy of Rick D. Obviously, that's all true. They just turned it into this because that's what they do. King of Biltong telling you that you can get some authentic South African flavor biltong at a great price, $54.95 over at Biltong USA. And use code Robert and go over there and indulge in high-protein, keto-friendly, no-additive biltong, courtesy of King of Biltong on Rumble. Thank you, Biltong. Chubby Stubby, I'll start giving credence and believe stuff Fetterman is saying once his legislative votes matches his rhetoric. Until then, he's just blowing a smoke and working solely for a bigger voter base in Pennsylvania. Kind of just catching the wave, saying he knows where this is going. Could be true, Chubby. Thank you for the dono. Little Rock Attorney Rock. He says, I've been a membo for 15 months. He says, 15 months? It doesn't seem that long. What's up, Little Rock Attorney in the house? Thank you for being a member for 15 months. That's coming up on 2 babies. Pretty sure it's what 9 plus 9 is. So we're getting there, and we really appreciate you being here. And it goes by fast, right? Especially when we're having fun. Hey, West Downer, it's pronounced Or-ida. Idiot Rob. Learn how to eat a tater tot once in your life. G-Men, and you better thank us for the flights and the grand on your way out. I love that. Yeah, Trisha doesn't play around. She's like, it's very generous. We'll even give you a vomit bag in your airplane seat, because we don't want your vomit all over our airplane. But we won't bill you for it, so get on. Rubos, hey, now the MAGA base, say the Rubos, has to speak up and tell Trump to replace the agriculture secretary. She's probably the one who urged him to bend the knee to corporate farming. Has that happened, the Rubos? Trump needs to support the small farmers, especially the Amish who helped give him a victory. Dropping the case against the Amos, drop the case, stop harassing Amish farmers. Yeah, and I don't know much about that story. Thank you to the Rubos for educating us on that. And I think our friend Robert Barnes has been involved in that and is up to speed on what's going on with that. But yeah, man, we can't have our farmers and, the people who, our truck drivers, like the people who do the things in America get harassed by the federal government. Absolutely not. Peaches, can you bring up the document showing Abrego Garcia's order saying Guatemala? I can't find it anywhere, but I remember you showing it once. Well, Peaches, you know how to make a request that satisfies my heart's most fondest desires, because at watcherlodge.com, when you go over there, you can click the research file, and it's going to look just like this, watcherlodge.com. We got a chat over there. We got show notes that we post a bunch of stuff. If you go down here into Kilmar Abrego Garcia, your boy assembled for us here all of the details. Here is the final order where it says, I would encourage you to read the full order. It says Guatemala in the conclusion, right? Now, what they were basing this on when they said his withholding of removal, the judge only wrote this. His application for withholding of removal is granted. And maybe in the application, he put El Salvador or whatever, but the judge's conclusion says he cannot be withheld from El Salvador because the law doesn't work that way. If he was granted withholding, like if he only asked for withholding to El Salvador, he would have lost that because he's got no basis there. His family's not in El Salvador. They moved to Guatemala. So the judge granted him withholding of removal to Guatemala. And in practice, that meant he wasn't getting removed anywhere because he had a WOR. And back in 2019, he wasn't designated an alien enemy or designated as part of MS-13. So the whole status has changed. But if you read the conclusion, if you read this whole order, and the whole order is linked down here, a ton of stuff is linked down here, but all the full documents are going to be down here. Here's the gang sheet. Here's the order of protections. Here's the 1010 order. If you want to read the actual full order, it's all right here. I'd encourage you to read it, and you tell me where it is that it says that he cannot be sent to El Salvador, because I've read it many times, gotten into debates about it over X. I even emailed Kilmar's lawyers and said, can you tell me, can you send me a document? Give me the materials. If you say, I said, can you show me anything specific that says withholding of removal was granted to El Salvador specifically? Because as you know, the order says Guatemala. No answer, crickets. Of course, I'd expect that. But there isn't an order that says withholding of removal to El Salvador. It might have been in the application, but it's not in an order. The order might reference the application, but the logic of the order is for Guatemala. And the law can't apply to El Salvador. His family's not there. Hey, Doan, good thing Stinson's a total moron. Imagine if he actually had a head on his shoulders. The average criminal mentality is inherently flawed. Now, it's a great question. Like, is he crazy? Has he always been crazy? What was he doing running FEMA and being a sharpshooter with the federal government? He's always been nuts. It's like this the type of caliber of government employee that we've got working through our system here? Or did he just go nuts over these last 4 or 5 years? A lot of people lost it over COVID, as we saw. They just keep shoving jabs into their foreheads. Neuro D, what's up, Neuro D? Hey, I wanted to give a shout out to Sean and Gina over at Third Railify. They have a fun channel. Check it out. It's called Third Railify over on Rumble for some hilarious and interesting content. We love hilarious and interesting content. That's what we try to do here, but sometimes doesn't work out. Hey, Michael Hall. Hey, don't you ever mess with Donnie One Ear. Gives me shudders just thinking about it. Donnie's coming. One Ear's coming? Yeah. The whole restaurant empties out. Donnie One Ear showed up. Want the usual? Restaurant clears out. Leonard, if Dems had proof the Minnesota gunman is a Trump supporter, the Dems would saturate the corrupt media with their evidence. I think that's probably true, yeah. If he was a rabid Trump supporter, you'd probably see that, but I don't think that's in evidence. They have been saying that with the roommate. There are some reports that he identified as a Republican. There are reports that he identified as an anti-abortion person. But he was also appointed by Tim Walz, also allegedly had no Kings posters in his weird case. So he might have just been nuts. NTX Nancy says, good grief, it sounds like Stinson almost sounds Manchurian. Yeah, just like the other assassin yesterday. And maybe Ruth and maybe Crooks. Like, what's happening to these people? Doan, that's why Cash is cleaning house. I'll bet there's a stack of red flags on Stinson dating back to at least 2016. Yeah, he might have been running it forever. Yeah, what just caused him to start in 2020? Kelly R., 18 months as a member. We got 2 babies, Kelly. Congratulations to all of us here. Got 2 babies now. Hochul is a joke. It's true. Happy 2 babies. Happy 2 babies to us, Kelly R. Thanks for being here for 18 months. That's a long time, and we appreciate you. Hey, Mike Alvord. What's up, Mike? Thank you for the dono. No comment, but we appreciate you sending that in, Mike. Kelly R., where are the Dems, Congress, or leaders when regular citizens get arrested? Oh, they don't care. Yeah, no, there's no injunctions when they shut your business down. I don't see them upset about treatment by cops when others break the law. No. Only when their side breaks the law or is fighting for justice, or if it's, like even COVID didn't really matter if you were out protesting Trump. You're not going to die of COVID as long as you're out for BLM because it's legitimate. Hey, G-Men, both the Short Act to remove SBRs and SBSs and AOWs from the NFA and the Hearing Protection Act made it into the Senate's version of the BBB in their entirety with 3 exclamation points from G-Men. So, sounds like you're happy about that. And if you're happy, I'm happy. Scott Podergoy. Podergoy. What's up, Scott? Thank you for becoming a member in the house. Appreciate you joining up. Thanks for being here and being amazing. Hey, what's up, G-Men? Says 5th Circuit withdrew their decision because the government changed their position and said suppressors are protected by the Second Amendment. Wow, Biden's DOJ argued that they were not protected arms, which is a nice benefit of winning an election. We got new leadership at the DOJ. Great news. Thank you, G-Men, for the update. Eleanor Schoonover. Look at this, Eleanor. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for sending this in. What an extremely generous dono. I don't even know what to say, as usual. Thank you, Eleanor. You're so generous. We appreciate that. Thank you for being able to share that with us. Rob, I'm a member for over a year, but maybe under email. So grateful for your expressive and instructive coverage of good, bad, and ugly. Congratulations from my family. We found you by accident and celebrate daily. Please keep it up. Ciao. Eleanor, what a nice thing to say. Thank you for that. And shout out to your family. Shout out to the Schoonover household over there. And for being a part of the show, for being a part of the community. And we really appreciate you. You've been extremely generous over the years. And I wish there was more value I could convey in response to such a generous donation. But I really appreciate it. Your work keeps us here. And so your donations, your support helps keep us here. And so we're very grateful for it. Shout out to your family. Thank you for watching the show and for being so amazing. We just appreciate you. Shout out to Eleanor Schoonover and the Schoonover household for a nice dono. We appreciate you. Thank you, Eleanor. Hey, Tim S. Cop friend of mine years ago said, finding speeders is like hunting ducks. You either look for the ones that stick out in a flock, or if the flock is big, you just aim right into it. Same work for sanctuary cities, just arrest in bulk. Yeah. There's a lot of illegals. Why would you go spend time in low density illegal alien areas rather than focus on high density, high propensity areas. Sanctuary cities seem like they're a nice location for that. Thank you, Tim S. Yeah, and I did a ride along with a City of Phoenix police officer once, and we gave a lot of people a lot of speeding tickets. Yeah, he did. It was an interesting one. Will Crump, federal judge in Massachusetts, William Young. That was before I was a defense attorney. I was in law school. Federal judge in Massachusetts, William Young, has blocked the Trump administration's decision to cut the NIH grants. I saw that, yeah. Said, give that money back. Give all the COVID thieves all their money back so that they can go save Americans. Thank you for that, Will. We may talk about that tomorrow. Another Massachusetts judge says, turn that money back on for my friends. Will Crump, Judge Young is a Ronald Reagan appointee. Well, it doesn't matter. Once you're granted injunction power and you get to turn the floodgates back on for all your friends, including the Republican friends who are also in on the NIH grift, you make it happen. Spud says, hey, if illegal migrants are so important to the agriculture industry, then have them self-deport, sponsor them for citizenship like other immigrants, like my ancestors had to do, and their jobs will be waiting for them. Yeah, thank you, Spuds, for that. I read another article, too, that said that after a raid happened in some Midwest town, I think it was like Kansas or something, they opened up job applications and everybody was piling in to fill out jobs. A bunch of American citizens actually wanted the jobs. Who'da thunk? Gag, what's up, Gag? GAG in the house. Thank you, Gag, for becoming a supporter and joining up. Grab the stream from this morning. We talked about Trump and Tucker duking it out. And we appreciate that. What's up, Wims? Wims, great to see you, Wims. What a nice thing. What a nice reminder. It's great to see you again. It's been a long time. Member for 22 months says, keep up the great work. Appreciate your insight. Thank you, Wims. I appreciate you for being here. Another longtime friend of the show. We appreciate that. Wims, great to see you. Gag, great to see you. Spuds in the house. Great to see you, my friends. Thank you so much for sending all of those in and for supporting our work. And Eleanor, once again, thank you very much for that very, very nice dono today. Of course, now, my friends, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to call it a day. Members, we're going to come on back here in about 2 minutes and debrief, have our after party, see what you thought about the show, hang out, take some final comments, and then call it a night on this lovely Tri-Tip Tomahawk Tuesday. But my friends, once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the great conversation. Thanks for liking the video, subscribing if you haven't already done that. Thanks for inviting a friend or family member to come over and join us when we're back here tomorrow, because we're going to get into it again. Now, before we wrap it up, I want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. Thank you to Donut, Mind Me, John in the house, K-Bean, Carrie B for modding the fort down for us, Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger over on the Rumbles. Big shout outs to Elliot, Jigum, and Just Rhonda, who help keep things nice and orderly around here. But my friends, we are going to leave it there on the night. Of course, we are coming back tomorrow in the morning for the Membos and in the afternoon for the show. And we hope that you join us, because when we come back here, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers shine in the light. Watching the watchers defending what's right. Watching the watchers stay each night together and live.